It's Kate.
And Oliver Hudson. Host of the new podcast, Sibling
Revelry.
That's right.
We started this show because, you know what? No one talks about siblings and that dynamic.
The siblings, they know each other better than anybody.
Yes.
You know.
Listen to Sibling Revelry on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'm Jacob Goldstein. I used to host Planet Money. Now I'm starting a new show. It's called What's Your Problem? Every week on What's Your Problem, entrepreneurs and engineers describe the future they're going to build once they solve a few problems. I'm talking to people trying to figure out how to do things that no one on the planet knows how to do, from creating a drone delivery business to building a car that can truly drive itself. Listen to What's Your Problem on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Episode 275, Understanding Your Workplace Retirement Accounts with Delyanne Barros.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends Podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends Podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we're talking about something that may not seem on the surface as very interesting, but it is something that so few people fully understand, and it is workplace retirement accounts. It's the 401k, the 403b, the 457, the yada, yada, yada. They are all very similar, so we're not going to go through everything individually. We're going to talk to our good friend Delyanne Barros about the differences, though, and what you should do with yours, how yours may differ from another one. Can you have multiples? So this is going to be a super important episode, even if it doesn't have the sexiest name.
All these numbers and letter combinations in parentheses, like what in the world do they mean? And in many ways makes sense that we don't talk about this very often, because it is one of those things that in general, at most, we're looking at it once a year.
Yeah.
Maybe less. If you've been at your place of employment for a while, you kind of set it and forget it, or you don't set it because you don't understand those numbers and letters. So hopefully Delyanne will be able to explain a little bit more to us, and then mostly just provide the motivation we need to do the thing once.
Yes. So if retirement and investing is something you're looking to learn more about, we do have a lot of investing episodes that are specifically focused towards keeping investing simple, keeping it retirement focused, and keeping it reasonable. So some of our favorite ones are episode 205, which is how to save for retirement, and episode 94, which is retirement 101. And those are really good. But also our minimalist investing episode. I forget what number that is, but that one is very good as well. And somebody who knows a lot about investing, I'm somewhat of a nerd when it comes to investing for retirement. Not all investing per se, but somebody who is a nerd about all of it is our friend Delyanne. And you might know her as Delyanne the Money Coach on TikTok, on Instagram. She is an investing coach, and she's been named one of the most influential voices on money by Time. And she was the host of Diversifying, which was the first personal finance podcast produced by CNN. She is a rock star, and she is just as relatable and nice in person as she is on social media. So super excited, if you don't know her, to introduce her to you.
Yes, let's do it.
But first, oh my God.
I'm ready. I was ready for Delyanne. Oh my God.
I was too. This episode is brought to you. You were wondering. I knew you were wondering too. This episode is brought to you by Debt-Free Stories. Woo-hoo. And I can't believe that I forgot this one, because this one is a brand new one. So Debt Free Stories is our new YouTube series that just launched this week and is releasing weekly through February, because you guys continuously ask us for more debt-free story interviews, and we can't possibly fill the entire show with them because there are so many other things we want to talk about, like workplace retirement accounts. We're selling you what you want, but we're giving you what you need. We're putting what you want on YouTube. We have a 10-episode series exclusive to YouTube where we are interviewing listeners just like you who have paid off debt in various ways. That's another reason I'm very excited about the series, because it's not just experts and entrepreneurs and all of these people you continuously hear on podcasts paying off debt. We got listeners. We got you guys to share your stories, and we're celebrating with you. And you have provided so much inspiration and wisdom in these interviews. I'm so excited for everybody to hear them. We've got a variety of people, variety of backgrounds, and so we hope you'll find it as inspirational as we did. If you want to catch that, head to youtube.com/frugalfriends and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the first episode is out and you'll want to get a notification for every episode when it drops each week.
Yes, I'm so excited for this. YouTube, but even more excited in this moment for Delyanne.
Delyanne, welcome, and thank you for hanging out with us today to talk about this riveting, really sexy topic. It's salacious.
I do think it's sexy, honestly. I take personal offense to that. So you're very welcome. This will be a rated R episode.
Ooh, explicit. Ooh. We're going to have to...
Rated R for retirement.
Okay.
I'm so excited. I'm just...
Whew. Wow.
Right, I'm here for it.
Delyanne, you are a force just reading your bio before we jumped into this. I'm so excited for you to be here and explain all of these numbers and letters and the ways in which they combine to mean something for our Rated R episode. Can we start there with the 401ks, the 403bs, the 457bs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? There may not be that many et ceteras. You'll know better than me, but what are the differences between these accounts? What are they?
Yeah, I think first, a good place to start is, why do they have these awful names? Could they not have come up with a better name for these accounts, please?
Yeah.
And the sad truth is that they just literally plucked the section out of the IRS code and was like, oh, this is section 401k. I know, we'll name this account 401k. I'm like, wow, you guys are just really reserving that creative energy for other things. Okay, cool. So that's where those names come from. It's from the IRS code. And I think people get overwhelmed. Yes, there's so many different accounts, but the good news is that for the most part, they're very, very similar. Their similarities are way more than their differences. So whatever, whenever I'm talking about investing in general, like you guys have here, a lot of the concepts that we discuss apply across the board. So that's the good news, right? But today, I guess we're going to highlight a little bit more of what the differences are. But the biggest similarity between them, though, are that these are employer-sponsored plans. So these are accounts that you need to get through your employer. Although I'm going to make a caveat already, it's that there are solo 401ks and SEP IRAs, which are for the entrepreneurs out there. So if you're like, hey, I'm a business owner, I'm self-employed, am I left out of this conversation? I would say no, listen in, this is still going to apply to you, because everything that we say for the 401k and everything else is going to apply to the solo 401k. So it's all going to translate. So both entrepreneurs and employees can benefit. But yeah, I think the other difference between them is they apply to different groups of employees. So you've got the 401k, which usually applies to people in the private sector, right? That's most of America. And then you have the 403bs, which are nonprofits, things like, people who work for legal aid or any other kind of nonprofit, who's a teacher. And then you have the 457, which is for government employees. So people in the military, any kind of other government establishment, they usually get access to the 457. That's the biggest difference between them. There's a few other things that we'll probably highlight as we go, but that's the biggest distinguishing factor there.
Nice.
And all of these are retirement accounts. Is that correct?
Correct. So they're specifically, retirement accounts that are going to provide you some kind of tax savings, which is why you'll sometimes hear them being referred to as tax advantaged accounts. So whenever you hear anybody say, oh, invest in your tax advantaged accounts, they're talking about these traditional retirement accounts in addition to like things like your IRA. And then when you hear people say non-tax advantage account, that's usually the brokerage account, right? Where that's not tied to your employer at all.
Yeah, and that's like when you've maxed out all of the things that they put a limit on means that you should like try and max those out first, because that's the reason there's a limit on it, because there's some kind of like tax advantage. So yeah, we don't talk much about the brokerages because for most people, like really the employer sponsored program is fine, and then potentially a Roth IRA, which is like a different episode. But is that what you find? You work with like a lot of people. Have you found that to be true, or any like common exceptions?
Yeah, I think, America is mostly made up of 401k millionaires. And again, I'm using the 401k colloquially because that could also include like 403b millionaires and 457 millionaires. But 401k millionaires, meaning people who are just like everyday normal people who are working their everyday normal job that's not very glamorous and just like, living life. And they are putting money slowly and surely into these accounts. And over a period of 30 or 40 years, boom, they have $1 million in these accounts, right? Like just doing a very boring, like tried and true investing, long-term investing, which is what I preach, which is what I teach, and it's what I practice. And so it is possible to become a millionaire, through these accounts. Absolutely. And people do it all the time. Am I going to say like every single person can do it? Obviously, I can't say that because we have, insane amount of income inequality in this country. And there are some people who are like, hey, I'm just trying to get food on the table. I cannot invest. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, everybody is going to be able to achieve this. But for a lot of people, right, and I would say for probably the majority of Americans, you can make this happen with a little focus and a little automation.
So the boring can be sexy is what I'm hearing you say.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like when I think about like all these stock gurus who are out there screaming into the ether about the stocks that they pick and all this stuff. I'm like, y'all, aren't you tired? Like, do you guys really love looking at these stock charts and like follow what's happening in the market? Like, I mean, I guess some people like that stuff, but I can guarantee that for the most part, most people do not care. They do not care what's happening with the Fed. And if they're raising interest rates, and they don't care, if like Apple's down or if Tesla's doing this, they don't care. They just want to live their lives, but know that their money is like growing on their behalf. And they want to do it in a way that's not gambling and they're going to lose all of their savings overnight. Right. Yeah. And that's the kind of investor I am. And I'm in this space and I have no interest in picking stocks. So these accounts are basically, the way you need to think about them is that they are vehicles to that life, right? Like you can get to that by using these vehicles. And most 401ks, 403bs, 457s will not allow you to buy individual stocks anyway. So that's another big distinguishing factor here, is that most of the time you can't even dip your toe into that whole let's pick stock situation. So it already takes out some of that temptation. Right. But there are going to be a list of investments inside of it, and you are going to get to decide what goes into it. For most people, some 401ks, some of these plans, your employer will choose it for you. Most of the time, they'll be like, hey, we're just going to throw you in this thing called a target date index fund or target date fund or mutual fund. And you can change it, though. Like you have a right to change it. And I think most people don't know that. Like, I think they just assume, hey, this is what my employer put me in. This is what's best for me. And it is what it is. But you actually do have a right to change it. And you can change it as many times as you want. I don't suggest doing that, right? Like going in and changing it every quarter. But you should know that you have those options there.
It's such a helpful reminder to hear that doing this kind of simple thing, it might take some time, for a day to look into this, make sure that you are signed up for the right types of accounts and putting money into it regularly. But beyond that, we don't have to be keeping a pulse on the stock market or have infinite amounts of play money to be able to do single stock investing or do other types of risky things with our money to see a payoff with it. I think myself included and many of our listeners, like that's just not the financial situation that we're in. And yet we want to know what are the wise choices we can be making with our money to see ourselves in a better financial position in the decades to come than maybe we are right now. And so it's just such a helpful, reassuring reminder that like the slow, steady, boring thing can be the sexy R-rated lifestyle we all want.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And, I think the other thing that we can't obviously gloss over is the biggest benefit of these accounts is the free money, right? That you get attached to it. I mean, when your employer offers you that employer match, that's like a no-brainer to me. That is the no-brainer of the investing world. If you can get that employer match, which literally doubles your money, you're going to get 100% return on your money, which you're not going to get right away in the stock market, right? That would take forever, but you can get an immediate 100% return, meaning like, oh, your employer offers 3% match. And some people are like, what does that mean? 3% of your salary. And that's usually pre-tax, your pre-tax salary, 3%. You put in 3%, they're going to put in 3%. Boom, you just doubled your money, right? So for me, when somebody asks me, does it make sense for me to participate? And there's a match, immediately yes. Like immediately yes, definitely, at least up to the match. If you can keep going beyond the match, fantastic. But if that's all you can do, then do that. And I encourage people to do, and this is going to be controversial, I encourage people to do this even if they have debt, okay? Even if you have credit card debt. Oh my God, I know. Even if you have credit card debt, I encourage you to do this because that is money that is going to compound so much over time. And I don't think that anybody should leave that on the table. And also, I consider that a part of your compensation. Your employer surely did when they hired you. Let me tell you. They took that into consideration when they made your job offer. They're like, oh, if this person opts in and they take this match, look how much extra money we're going to have to give to this employee. So you should be considering it part of your compensation as well.
Yes, I say that all the time. It's that your employer is paying you less because they have factored in this match and they're hoping you don't take advantage of it and they save money.
Yep.
So by not meeting your match, you're actually refusing 3 to 6% of your salary. And that's the way to look at it. But yeah, the getting the employer match, it's usually very little and you don't even notice it. It's so
because
little.
It's pre-tax, right?
Yeah.
It comes out pre-tax. So before they take out FICA and Social Security and all those other taxes that make your paycheck look so skinny after you take it, you're like, where did my money go? Before they take any of that, before Uncle Sam gets his grubby little hands on your paycheck, you get to take that money out first and put it into your investment account. And that's why I say that money is so powerful because pre-tax money can grow faster. Right, because it has not yet been taxed. So I'm a huge fan of these accounts, and it frustrates me that a lot of employers don't offer education around this. Like, why isn't it standard that when you get hired, that you get an orientation that includes an explanation of your 401k, your 403b benefits? A lot of employees don't get that.
Yeah, which definitely.
I'm like, it blows me away.
Yeah. So you touched on the tax benefits of these accounts. So what are the biggest tax advantages? Because I know some people are itemizing their deductions on taxes. Most people are not, so that the pre-tax doesn't matter as much to them. So they go with a Roth. What are some of the advantages to these employer-sponsored accounts over just getting an IRA and sticking with that?
Right. So first of all is the contribution amount, right? An IRA, as we know, you can only contribute $6,000 per year. It's going up to $6,500 next year. Woohoo, big whoop. Thanks for raising it $500, IRS. Again, just like you said, right, Jen? They put a cap on it for a reason because, hello, who doesn't want to grow their money tax-free? So with these plans, though, the cap goes up much more, right? It was 20,500 this year. It's going up to 22,500 next year, I believe. So imagine socking away 22 grand a year in pre-tax or even Roth money, because now employers are starting to offer a 401k Roth option. So imagine having a giant Roth IRA allowing you to put away $22,000 a year tax that lets you grow money tax free, right? So how does the tax benefit work? If you use a traditional 401k, which means pre-tax, you're getting the money taken out of your paycheck, like I said, before Uncle Sam gets his hands on it. So let's say you made $100,000 and now you're putting $20,000 into your 401k. Uncle Sam basically closes his eyes and he's like, oh, my bad. You did not make $100,000 this year. You made $80,000 this year. He pretends that you did not make that extra $20,000 that you put into your 401k. So your taxable income actually comes down, right? So I usually tell people, if you're in a higher tax bracket, consider a traditional pre-tax account to bring down that taxable income. But if you're in a lower tax bracket, consider locking in that lower tax bracket and going the Roth route, right? So that you can lock in that low tax bracket, because again, nobody knows what taxes are going to be in the future, but everybody assumes that taxes are going to increase, especially because our debt is insane, right? Our national debt is through the roof. So the chances are that taxes are going to go up. So if you can lock in your tax bracket now, you can, like I said, not have to pay taxes on that money ever again.
Yeah. It is a very nuanced, balance. So when I had, when I was maxing out a 401k and a Roth IRA, and they also offered the Roth 401k, I just did a straight even balance. Half of it went to regular and half of it went to Roth, because I was like, I think my income's going to go up, but I don't know how the tax bracket's going to be.
Yep.
And I just want to have all my apples in separate baskets. And
I love that you brought that up, because I am such a fan of tax diversification, which is exactly what you did, right? And that's what I did too in different parts of my career. So I'm glad you said that, because these choices are not all or nothing. So you don't have to be like, oh, I'm going all pre-tax or all Roth. You can actually split up your contribution and you can decide. You can be like, oh, I'm going to do 80% pre-tax, 20% Roth, or like you did, 50-50. So I love that you did that. And the other thing that people get confused about is, oh, if I put money in my Roth 401k, does that mean that I can contribute to a Roth IRA? Yes, you can. Those are completely separate accounts. They do not affect each other. So really important, I think, also to know how these different accounts interact with each other, right? But if you have more than one of these 401k, 403b, 457, again, I'm going to put the 457 in a separate category now. If you have a 401k and a 403b, you can only put in the total, right? So if the total is 20,500, that's your max across those accounts. So you can't just dump 20 grand into a 401k and 20 grand into a 403b. Now, here comes the 457 to save the day. This is one of my favorite. I have two great features that I love about the 457. So if you have access to this account, kudos to you. I hope you're taking advantage of it, because here's one of the benefits. You can contribute to a 401k and a 457 and max out both. So you can actually dump 20 grand into one, 20 grand into the other. I know most people can't afford to do that, but if you can, go for it. And the other second benefit of the 457 is that you can withdraw from it anytime without paying the 10% penalty. So it does not have that 59.5 requirement like the 401k does. So this is a great account for early retirees. You guys know I'm all about, retire early, relax early, as I like to call it. 457 is an awesome account for early retirees because you can pull money from it without paying the 10% penalty. You are going to have to pay taxes, obviously, if it's a pre-tax account, but you get around that 10% penalty, which is huge.
Is that on money you put in and growth? That you avoid that?
Yes.
That's great. Because on the Roth IRA, it's only what you put in. You would still see a penalty on the growth.
Yeah. Fantastic, right?
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that 457 be normally accessible to?
Usually government employees. So if you work for some kind of government agency, government employees, usually people like in the military or some form of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of all these different types of accounts, in the sandbox of retirement accounts, how do they play together? Like, can an employer offer more than one type of retirement plan? Can you take advantage of all of them? Do you have to pick and choose? Like, what you're kind of hitting on that a bit, but could you say more about how they play in the sandbox?
Yeah, an employer can definitely offer more than one, and I've seen that many, many times over. So you don't have to. Sometimes they do enroll you in it. For instance, I've seen something like a 401k where it's a profit sharing plan. So they're like, oh, you can't contribute to this plan, but we're dumping profit sharing money in here. And so in addition to this 401k, pseudo 401k here, we're also going to give you access to like a 403b where you can actually contribute money. So sometimes they'll have different, requirements like that or different restrictions. And then the 457 is usually an account that I see coupled with many other accounts. So you'll have a 457 and a 403b. That's like the most common one that I see because nonprofit and government usually goes together a lot. But yeah, you can participate in all of these accounts. Again, just like I said, you can have them, you can contribute to all of them. You guys just have to be aware of like where the caps are depending on which accounts you have. So just again, 401k, 403b, the caps overlap. So the most you can put in there is that $20,000. But then when you factor in the 457, that's the little anomaly one where you're allowed to max out the 401k and the 457. You can double dip, right? So, but, as far as like, which one should I choose? I've had that question a lot. Like, oh, my employer offers both. Which one should I pick? The first thing you want to look at is, again, which accounts is the match being offered in, because it's not always both. So first of all, which one is the match coming in? So prioritize that one. And then the other thing I would look at is the fees, what kind of investments are being offered and how much are they charging in fees, because that is how they will eat away at your profit, right? And sometimes the fee can be so high, especially in 403b accounts, which is crazy. I'm like, those are the accounts where the fee should be the best. So this is like where most teachers are at, right? That are taking advantage of. And it's the ones that are usually the worst that I've seen.
Is there a way to get a quick answer on that? I feel as though with this type of thing, the paperwork is extensive.
It is. It's very frustrating. And so I've had people call, instead of like digging through all the statements, because it's not always in the statement. They purposefully hide these things. Like they're not just going to have
Which
a
is
big
so weird.
Oh,
like,
I know,
why?
right? Well,
it's not like you have a bunch of choices. You have only a few choices. Don't hide it from me.
But they don't want you to know how much you're paying in fees.
Yeah.
They don't want you to know. Honestly, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this is the fact of the matter. So they're not going to have a page that is clearly marked in big, bold letters. Hey, this is how much you're paying in fees, because that could dissuade people from participating, and they want people to participate. But you need to know what your fees are. So you're looking for words like fees, expense ratios. There'd be so many different names, right, for fees. So sometimes the best thing is to either go to your HR person and be like, can you walk me through this? Or who is our plan administrator so that they can walk me through it? I want somebody to clearly tell me, how much am I paying in fees inside this plan? Because sometimes it can be so high that it will destroy whatever tax benefit you're getting inside of the account.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if you're paying something like 1 or 1.5% in fees per year, that's where the tax benefit starts to erode. And then it may not make sense to be in that account anymore.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing. And of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic. oracle.com/strategic.
Discover the heartwarming and hilarious world of sibling connections on Sibling Revelry with Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson.
You might be asking yourself, what is sibling revelry?
Yeah, well, we just made it up.
They'll have some laughs and maybe inspire some people along the way with universal tales of what it's like to grow up with brothers and sisters.
We're full-blood siblings, the only full-blood sibling.
In our family. Well, not in the world. I mean...
No, in the whole world. That's just it. Like, no one...
Dive into family tales and explore the human mind with guests like Joel and Benji Madden.
And it's fun because we've decided to open it up, to really like all kinds of different siblings. And it's going to be an awesome season.
It's more than a podcast. It's a celebration of the ties that bind us. Listen to Sibling Revelry with Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, asking those questions, even if we feel silly while doing it, ultimately is going to benefit us. I mean, we're talking about our lives beyond having to hold down a career. Like this is huge for our own future. So it's worth sucking it up a little bit and asking the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I tell people, I'm like, this is money coming out of your paycheck, literally, right? Money that could have been going in your pocket, in your bank account. If it's coming out of your paycheck and going into this mysterious black hole that you're like, I don't know what's going on in there. It's time. This is the time. We need to, demystify it because you should know what's going on with your money. And this type of like, throwing your hands up, I don't want to deal with it attitude. I get it because I've done it too in my 20s and that's one of my regrets. But if I can encourage you guys to like you said, take some time, go bug HR, go have a conversation with somebody and learn what's going on inside these accounts. It might surprise you. You might learn some things that could make huge impact in your financial future.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the times it is not that hard. Like my sister-in-law wanted me to look at her 401k to see what was going on. And it ended up being a Fidelity account. And she was in a life cycle fund that was the right amount of, diversified and like aggression for her. She didn't really have the option to break it out into like the total stock market and the bond. And she didn't really have that option, which was unfortunate because it would have saved her a bit on fees. But ultimately, if you're going down in a tax bracket because you contribute to a 401k, then like a quarter of every dollar almost is you're getting that back to put into your account. So like taxes are one of the biggest fees and one of the biggest expenses you'll have every year. And so to take advantage as much as possible on paying your future bills now and saving money on future bills now by saving your money in this big place. We're not talking saving like 3% or 5% on your utility bill. Like now you could be saving essentially 25% on the dollar for your utility bill when you're 80. Doing that now, it's just like, it's a perspective shift that when I like realized that's what I was doing, I was saving money on future bills by investing now. It put investing for retirement into perspective for me is like that tax saving is very significant, whether you get it from the employer plan or the IRA.
Absolutely. And I tell people like, investing for your future is something that is difficult for most people because it's hard to picture yourself in the future, right? It's hard to picture yourself as a little old lady, right? But I do that all the time. I visualize myself at 60, 70, 80 years old all the time to make it really palpable and to make it like really, like like real to me. Like that's a real person. She's going to be here someday and I want her taken care of. And when I finally get tired and I want to stop working, I don't want her to have to live like a broke college student. I want her to live and have a nice life and have a dignified retirement and still be able to like, you know, have a drink by the beach and like, you know, hassle the young cabana boys and like have fun and do all the things and not have to scrimp and stress about every single dollar. I want her to like really enjoy herself, just like I enjoy myself now. I want that to continue into the future, right? So that's what I tell people. I'm like have some love for that person. You're building for that person, right? Like they're not here yet, but they're going to be. And the chances are that most of us are going to live until we're 80, 90 years old, right? As much as Gen Z wants to tell me that we are, you know, hurtling through space and we're catapulting through towards a comet and we're just going to like self-implode. Yeah. I'm like, y'all, I'm going to stay positive. And, you know, to be a saver and to be an investor, you have to be optimistic. If you're a doom and gloom type of person, it's going to be very hard for you to, you know, execute on these things because how can you counter that?
I love the picture that you're painting for yourself as an older, wiser
I love that
woman,
picture. I want that picture. Yeah.
haggling the cabana boys and drinking by the beach. And I'm sure other things too. But also, I love what you're describing here. I think it's an important exercise, especially for those who might be a little bit averse to understanding the combination of these letters and numbers and what it all means and why is it important to me now? Because there is something to be said for thinking about and caring for our future selves, and not just our future selves, but others who rely and depend upon us. When we talk about retirement, we're also talking about our kids or others in our spouses, our family. And the better and kinder we are to ourselves, both in the here and now and in the future, the more kind we're able to be to those around us. If we have thought about and set up a good retirement for ourselves, that's a gift not only to our future selves, but those in our community and the space around us, because they are now not burdened with the financial pressures of needing to provide for us. So there's so many different layers here and reasons to be looking at this and to be making wise decisions within our means.
Yeah, I mean, and sadly for many of us, we are going to be in that situation where our money is going to have to support 3 generations. Our kids, ourselves, and our parents, right? Like I'm child free by choice, so I don't have children, but I do have a parent that financially I support, and she has 0 savings to her name. My mom does nothing about saving and investing. You know, she works, she's responsible with her money, but she does not, it doesn't go beyond that, right? It's like a very paycheck to paycheck mentality, which is how we grew up. And so when I think about saving and investing now, it's not just for one person, it's for me and it's for her. And it's, you know, it's a big burden to take on that. It's a lot. It's like, I understand I don't have children. I don't understand what that feels like, but wow, caring for a parent is also extremely stressful. And I want her well taken care of, right? And a lot of us are going to find ourselves in this situation. So the sooner you start, you're doing yourself a favor down the road, right?
Yes.
To make that situation easier for yourself.
Yes. I'm so glad we're talking about this. It's a little adjacent, but Jill, do you remember the bill of the week we had recently where this woman called in and she was thankful that she had her frugality allowed her to have the savings and essentially retirement savings to when Hurricane Ian hit Port Charlotte in South Florida. Her parents' home was destroyed. Their retirement home was destroyed. And she had the savings enough to take care of herself that she could also then move her parents out to Colorado to be closer to her so she could, you know, care for them and this unexpected thing that had derailed their retirement plans. And like that is the reason we are discerning with our money and we choose to say no to things that don't matter now so we can say yes to things that money can't buy in the future, which is that peace of mind and that care for the people that we love. And that's why I think saving for retirement is so friggin' important, is we're all going to be there in some capacity, whether we want to believe it or not.
100%. I tell people, I still say this, investing is a privilege, but it's not a luxury, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. So I don't put it in the category of luxury. I think a lot of people do so that they can swipe it away and be like, this isn't for me. I don't have money to deal with this, so I'm not gonna think about it. And that really hurts me because I'm like, oh my God, if they only knew that this is just as important as like paying a light bill or your health insurance bill or your mortgage, it's just as important, right? It's like, it's on that level. So I tell people, and I don't like tough love. I don't use it, but I sometimes I feel like I need to shake people a little bit. And I'm just like, you guys, if your income doesn't allow you to put some money away in an investment account, you need to do something about that, like ASAP, because investing is a must. Like it's a necessity. Like you have to do this, right? We have no safety nets in this country. No safety nets. Okay. So like we are on our own. Help is not coming. So it's so important that people prioritize this. So sometimes I do feel like I have to like shake people a little bit because I think that they think, yeah, investing is like for rich people. It's nice. It's for rich, especially when they hear me talking about retiring early, which is an extreme privilege that I will admit. Retiring early is very privileged, but it's still like being able to retire at some point. So you're not working till the day you die. I think that that's a part of the human experience that you're entitled to like have, right?
Yeah. I mean, retiring at 60 is essentially retiring early because most people, the average retirement age, people say they want to retire is 65. The real average retirement age is 63. And I haven't looked at the data, but I don't think it's because people are pleasantly surprised by what they're saving.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, retiring early doesn't mean retiring in your 30s or 40s anymore. It doesn't have to be that. Right. But if we can plan for the best and the worst at the same time, that's really the gift that time gives us. So, okay. Yeah. And last question. So we have touched on how important these accounts are. What if your employer doesn't offer one? Okay. What should you do then?
So if your employer doesn't offer one, first of all, boo for that employer. Like what?
I worked for small companies that can't afford these plans.
Okay. Fine.
So I get it. Yeah.
I get it. But also I'm like, if you're a company who can't offer a retirement plan, I almost think like maybe you can't afford to have employees. So think about that, because like I said, having a retirement plan is a necessity. And if your employer doesn't offer that, you're immediately cutting yourself off right there. Right. So you're like, oh, shoot, now what do I do? So obviously there are other accounts that you can use, which you guys have discussed before, like the Roth IRA, the brokerage account. Right. And then if you do start a side hustle, which not everybody has the time or the energy to do, but if you do end up having a side hustle or a side business, you can open a solo 401k. So you actually, can bypass the employer and go have a solo 401k and get access to all the things that I just described to you guys here. But like I said, I don't think that avenue is available to everyone, especially if you've got kids and you're already working 60, 70 hours a week. You're like, where am I supposed to get the time and the energy to side hustle?
Yeah. If you're working 60, 70 hours a week and your employer still doesn't offer a plan, then that is a different story.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
That is a different episode that you should be listening to.
Agreed. We need to have a different kind of sit down.
Yeah.
But the Roth IRA is there, the brokerage account, which again, I don't want people to be like, oh no, but I'm not going to get all these tax benefits in a brokerage account. Like this is such a bad option. We don't have time to go into this, but the brokerage account does indeed have tax benefits. Okay. They actually have a whole different little tax bracket that's called long-term capital gains tax. When you guys have time, if you haven't talked about we can do a whole podcast episode on brokerage accounts. I love talking about them. There is a whole different tax bracket for investors in those accounts as long as you hold your investments for at least a year. So the tax brackets are 0%. There's a 0% tax bracket. There's a 15% and there's a 20%. So those tax brackets sound hella low, right? They sound way lower than income tax brackets. Yes, this is why investing in America is like what the wealthy do. And they use brokerage accounts to create wealth and to lower their taxes. So don't discount the brokerage account.
Yeah. I always think that's so funny that labor is taxed at a higher rate than cash sitting in a brokerage.
I think it's funny too, like funny, sad.
Yeah. That type of funny.
Do you know what's funny? Happy, not always funny, but like sometimes really funny and just enjoyable.
Happy.
And every week we've got one for you. It's the bill of the week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the bill of the week.
Bill of the week. I want to be a part of it.
Yay.
Yes. I love that. All right. Delyanne, every week we invite our listeners or our guests to share with us their bill for the week. It can be one you pay. It can be one you don't pay. It can be your neighbor bill, whatever. It's vague for a reason. And we would love to hear yours today.
I know. I wish I had a bill and a funny story to share, like a person bill. But
we all do. They are the best.
But mine is going to be, I'm ditching one of my credit cards. So I have the Amex Gold and I'm going to be canceling it because I'm moving to Portugal and that is not a very like travel friendly card. And nobody in Europe likes Amex. I don't know, like what happened. Oh, Amex. Don't sue me, Amex. But basically I went to Portugal and nobody wanted to take it. So I'm like, that's a $250 annual fee that I'm paying for a card that's not really going to be useful to me. So I have said goodbye to Amex and that's one less bill I need to worry about.
Yay for the side update of this move to Portugal. I'm so excited to hear this.
Drop that in there.
Yes.
Portugal's so great.
That's so fun. And cutting a bill that just won't serve you anymore. It's excellent.
And Amex misses nothing because you have canceled, Delyanne, but Jill just got the card with the flowers on it.
I did. I just got the platinum.
Oh, boy.
I know. I gained a bill. You lost a bill. I gained a bill.
But that card is beautiful. I just love looking at it. I'm not going to get it because I won't use 90% of the benefits. But I like looking at it.
I will milk that card for every benefit they can give me.
You should. Mm-hmm. You should.
And then maybe I'll move to Europe.
Yeah. But don't use it there.
Don't say that.
I'll
Jill.
snip it up when I'm done. I mean, why not? You can come with me.
Can I?
I mean, if you want to. Well done, Delyanne. I'm so excited for you and your move to Portugal. Hopefully it means other benefits to your bills and your finances and just your life in general. If you all listening have a bill about an amazing move to Europe or slicing and dicing credit cards or gaining credit cards or just a person named Bill, you know the drill. frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill. Leave us your bill. Actually, we're really ready for it because our bill tank is getting low. We need a refill.
We were 6 months behind and now we're looking for them.
We will be up to date now.
Not going to 2 episodes a week really shot us through the last 6 months of backup. So please call. If you meet somebody named Bill, I don't care. Just
have him call.
Yeah.
Have Bill call us.
Discover the heartwarming and hilarious world of sibling connections on Sibling Revelry with Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson.
You might be asking yourself, what is sibling revelry?
Yeah, well, we just made it up.
They'll have some laughs and maybe inspire some people along the way with universal tales of what it's like to grow up with brothers and sisters.
We're full-blood siblings, the only full-blood sibling.
In our family. Well, not in the world. I mean...
No, in the whole world. That's just it. Like, no one...
Dive into family tales and explore the human mind with guests like Joel and Benji Madden.
And it's fun because we've decided to open it up, to really like all kinds of different siblings. And it's going to be an awesome season.
It's more than a podcast. It's a celebration of the ties that bind us. Listen to Sibling Revelry with Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
From the studio who brought you the #1 podcast, The Piketon Massacre, this is Murder 101.
A group of high school students started a project to research a string of unsolved murders.
Those murders happened in the mid-1980s.
He's out there doing stuff. He just didn't stop.
Everything that the students predicted through their profile turned out to be accurate.
Redhead killer profile. Male, Caucasian, 5'9" to 6'2", 180 to 270 pounds. Unstable home, absent father and a domineering mother. Right-handed, IQ above 100, most likely heterosexual.
There is no profile of this killer except for the ones the students created.
Just because some of these women no longer have people to speak for them does not mean that they deserve to not be spoken for.
What if this guy's still alive? Like, what if he comes after us?
I said, are you going to kill me? And he said, yes.
Listen to Murder 101 on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now it's time for
the lightning round. Pew, pew.
Wow, the sound effects are amazing.
We told you we'd yell at you.
A top podcast, Delyanne. We are. You should know the production quality of a top producing podcast, and that's us.
I mean, you guys have set the bar at a different level for sure.
It's just, there is no bar here.
It's what we do.
The only bar is on the corner.
Yeah. We've set it so high I can't even see it. Wow. I haven't been able to see it for years. All right. So today's lightning round question that we will all take turns answering is, and I made the mistake of abbreviating because I have pregnancy brain. And so I said, what's the biggest ESP mistake you've ever made? And then that was interpreted in many different ways. Right now I'm reading it and I'm thinking, isn't ESP like psychic stuff?
Yes. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Okay. So, and you can answer in any way that you want. Like, what's the biggest psychic stuff, like mistake you've made? But the original intent of the question was, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made with your employer-sponsored plan? We're gonna blame the pregnancy brain on it because that's what I do for everything now. So, Delyanne, as our guest, we would love to hear your biggest mistake.
Yeah, mine was probably something that a lot of people do too, which is they just ignore that plan, right? When you first get a new job, you're like, what's a 401k? That sounds really boring and weird. And, oh, it's something I won't need till I'm 60 years old. Cool. I don't need to worry about that right now. And then you don't sign up for it. And I found out 3 years later, oops, that I've been missing out on all this free match money, that this is money that could have been growing. And this was like during 2008 to 2010. Hello, prime time to be buying investments. So I missed out on a lot of sales. But finally, my HR director, who was a Black woman and is the only person in my 14-year career as an attorney who ever spoke to me about money or investing. And she came to me and said, hey, why aren't you participating in the 401k? What the hell are you doing? This is a really important plan. You need to sign up for it. So she kind of like, sat me down, quickly explained it. And I was like, okay, that sounds important enough that I should consider it. Oh, and I get more money? Yeah, cool. Sign me up for that. So I did miss out on 3 years of investing, but lesson learned.
Well done for her seeking
it.
You out and helping inform you. That's females helping females right there.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, yes, women helping women make money.
Yes. I love it. I'm like, let's have more people do that, please.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm all about absolutely. It. And sometimes it's those mistakes that drive you into this different direction where you've not only made up for it, but you are helping others make up for it in spades. So that is, yes. So Jill, how about you?
My biggest mistake is never being employed by a company or organization who ever offered these, ESPs out there.
They don't offer the psychic
They
stuff?
had no psychic stuff available to me.
Well, that's a huge mistake.
Now I just know nothing about my future. Yeah.
Leave.
But I am currently an approved adjunct professor at a previous university that I attended, and they do offer, even as an adjunct, I don't know if it is the 401k or like a version of it within the education realm, something along those lines. I was so excited as I was filling out all the paperwork. I'm like, yep, I know what this is. Sign me up for the most I can put away. I mean, adjunct professors don't make much, so it's going to be like a very small paycheck, but I was so excited. Like the first time ever this has been offered to me. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Did you ever hear from like friends did they ever talk about it? And you're like, what's that? Your employer offers that?
Oh, I've
That's
always
weird.
heard. Sure. I don't live under a rock. I've heard about all these amazing things that other people get to take advantage of, but I have always worked in the nonprofit sector, very small organizations where they just were getting like startup nonprofits. So think about startup businesses. Startup nonprofits, they didn't have.
Yeah.
So
that was my first job out of college and I loved that job. I worked there for 5 years, and it was such a community focus. It wasn't a nonprofit, but it was community focused to where they charged the bare minimum for services. And I so supported that. But when I had the opportunity to go to an employer that had a 401k, I definitely took it. And then my biggest mistake came when I left that employer 8 weeks before I gave birth to my son. I was the investing writer for this company. That is what I covered. I covered investing. I covered the FIRE movement. And I left and I was like, oh, I got to roll over my, 401k. We'll do this. And now now services will do it for you, like Capitalize. But I was like, I'll just, I can do this. It's Vanguard. I'm just switching from Vanguard to Vanguard. And I wake up a year later from having a child and realize I rolled over the money, but I never invested it. It sat and this was 2018. So it wasn't a horrible time. Like things were kind of like stagnant to going down. So it wasn't like a huge miss, it was like 2019.
Oh,
so maybe a little, yeah. So I
I think the stock market was up like almost 30% or something in 2019. Not to pour salt on the wound, sorry.
So, but no, okay. So this was 2019 when it came out. It was 2020 when I realized it. It was like April 2020 when I realized it.
Wow.
So, it wasn't the worst thing.
Yeah.
So
that was actually great timing.
Yeah. And then my husband, we didn't wait for him. I was like, I'm not making this mistake again. So we started to roll over his in March of this year. We kept it for a while. It was in Fidelity. And we started it. It had to have been March or April. And then for some reason, they were going to send us a check instead of like mailing it to Vanguard. And in the 30 days that we had that check, we were moving. So we just, when we get to the new house, we're going to do it. And we ended up by like putting it in right at the dip. So we were able to avoid that dip for that month and then kind of buy at the bottom. And I was like, this is nothing that should be timed, but I think we're 2 for 2. I think we're bad gamblers, but I guess we're good investment timers.
You got lucky, right? And
we got lucky,
You acknowledge that, like, hey, we got lucky. But some people will take that luck and be like, I'm a master investor. I know how to time the market now. And then I'm like, no, don't extrapolate like your luck into like, oh, now I can read the market and I can read candles and I know how to predict things. No.
Our wisdom was on accident. It was newborn phase and moving. We got it was definitely by accident.
Well done with this vulnerable lightning round, as Jen always loves it to be. We all make mistakes. Hopefully you can learn from ours. If you're currently making one of these mistakes, let's correct it. We're here for you. And also, Delyanne, I mean, you're an expert on so many things. Where can people get more from you?
I basically live on Instagram, so that's the best place to find me is at Delyanne the Money Coach. You can also find me on TikTok or DelyanneTheMoneyCoach.com. I am always there, always posting a ton of free content, so come check it out.
Yay!
It's all very helpful. So thank you so much, Delyanne, for hanging out with us today and making this quasi-boring, seemingly boring subject not boring.
I think we did a good job, yeah?
I think we did. Yeah.
Check. Check that box.
Rated R. Done.
Jill, was that everything you were hoping it would be?
Oh, yeah. I love it when I can be enlightened on things I'm not an expert on. I have made it very clear throughout the last 4.5 years on this podcast that I'm not an expert when it comes to retirement savings and investing, but because of this podcast and you, Jen, I'm learning more. And I think conversations like this are just super helpful and at bare minimum, remind us to be looking at these things and what should we be thinking about? What can we be doing? So grateful to learn from the experts here too. This is why we bring on guests on the podcast. This is why we do interviews, to fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to share that in a way that was not dry and boring like you'd get on most investing podcasts. So, and just the chance to hang out with Delyanne for a little bit on a Monday afternoon. So thank you on whatever day you're listening to this for hanging out with us. And we're so appreciative of you. And that's why we do this.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. We hope you got some helpful information from Delyanne and from this episode. Many of you also know that we have a membership for our listeners, something where you can get plugged in beyond this podcast. And many of our members are in debt payoff journeys or saving more money, have a variety of financial goals. And it's there that we do monthly money challenges, kind of a fun way to engage and make better decisions with our finances. There's also accountability groups within the membership, so opportunity to connect with other fellow frugal friends and encourage each other and share your own tips and tricks along the way. And we want to congratulate one of the members from our membership for a big win. Her name is Christy L, and said, little things add up. I was thinking about my Amazon Prime membership and was wondering how many channels I was streaming. I just went in and canceled them all for a savings of $34 a month. I had no idea I was spending that much on subscriptions. This is a huge win for me. Holy smokes, Christy, that is a massive win. We were talking about minimizing and simplifying our digital lives and the impact that can have on our finances in a variety of ways, but definitely in this way when we realize how many digital things we're paying for. And usually we don't need them all. $34 a month. I mean, that's a pretty big dent when it comes to discretionary expenses.
Yeah, that's actually more than the monthly cost of the membership. Yeah. So just being in there, now you've recouped it and you are simplifying your digital life, which can simplify your choices. So congrats, Christy.
Thank you all for listening. If this sounds fun to you, these monthly money challenges, gamifying our finances, where there's also all kinds of courses and interviews and more challenges, head to frugalfriendspodcast.com/club. You could check it out. You could join there. You could just get all the Frugal Friends in all the different directions. YouTube, membership, podcast.
Do it. And we'll see you there, or we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Sirianni.
Discover the heartwarming and hilarious world of sibling connections on Sibling Revelry with Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson. Dive into family tales, explore the human mind, and laugh with guests like Joel and Benji Madden. It's more than a podcast, it's a celebration of the ties that bind us.
And it's fun because we've decided to open it up to really all kinds of different siblings. And it's going to be an awesome season.
Listen to Sibling Revelry with Kate Hudson and Oliver Hudson on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Frances Fry.
And I'm Ann Morris.
And we are the hosts of a new TED podcast called Fixable.
We've helped leaders at some of the world's most competitive companies solve all kinds of problems.
On our show, we'll pull back the curtain and give you the type of honest, unfiltered advice we usually reserve for top executives. Give us a call and we'll help you solve the problems you're stuck on. Listen to Fixable on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.